Hello and welcome to Northwest Indian News. I'm Carissa Peapud-Gobin, a Tulalip tribal member. In 2003, during excavation work on a dock in Port Angeles, the remains of an ancient village were discovered. Thousands of artifacts and the remains of over 300 Klallam ancestors have since been unearthed, documented, and reburied. Recently, the Elwha Heritage Center made a few of these sacred artifacts available for public viewing. NWIN's Mike Sarich brings us up to date on the ancient village of Tse-Whit-Zen.
200 years ago, Europeans and pioneers arriving on Klallam shores forced tribal peoples from their homes and land. Tse-Whit-Zen village was ultimately buried and paved over, making room for settlers, their homes, and businesses. Carbon dating reveals that Tse-Whit-Zen community was flourishing 2,700 years ago and was one of 30 villages along the northern coast of the Olympic Peninsula. Rediscovering solid evidence of dwellings and belongings of our ancestors has reaffirmed Elwha Klallam's history, traditions, and culture.
Hearing the elders talk about some of what people considered with myths, it was reality that was starting to set in to our community. Those that had doubted their culture and had doubted the teachings that they were being taught or the stories that they were being told, they were actually seeing it on the ground. And that was an opportunity for a lot of our community members today.
When I found out about the construction that was going on here, I wanted to be here because I knew my father was born just maybe about 1.5 miles up out on Edith Hook here. As a kid, he used to have to walk around here and then go up and around to go to school because they know there was a village here and a burial site here.
After a decade of residing at the Burke Museum of Natural History and Culture in Seattle, some of the belongings unearthed at Tse-Whit-Zen are making their journey back home.
I am really excited that these artifacts are going back to the community. It's just a start. There are a lot of artifacts to go back there, and I think this is just the first step to sort of that process of healing where the community can learn more about the objects.
It's a victory not only for our people and our ancestors, but for the other tribes around us that held us up when we needed them to hold us up and stand by us. You know, it's a victory not only for us, it's a victory for every nation.
In July of 2014, tribal and Port Angeles community members celebrated and welcomed home over a dozen ancestral belongings. The objects will be on permanent exhibit at the Elwha Klallam Heritage Center.
Just being a part from the beginning and seeing the artifacts come back home, the belongings of our ancestors, you know, is a day to celebrate. And I think having the exhibit at the Heritage Center is going to bring a lot of education to the city, to the people, to the community, to our people, to our kids, to our young babies. To be able to tell the story, to share our experiences is going to be great.
For our community, they're proud to see these things because it reminds them, yes, you are indigenous people. Yes, you do come from this land. For them not to forget their ancestors. It's also good for the non-native community to really see what they haven't seen in a long time, and that's culture, really rich culture.
Archaeological findings from Tse-Whit-Zen provides a deep insight into the lives and lifestyle of our Klallam ancestors.
A lot of the artifacts that we actually uncovered here were actually from a maritime subsistence activity. So you see a lot of things as far as harpoons, points, of mammal bone, of seal and whale and dolphin, but you also had elk and deer, bobcat. The people were very sophisticated here. They had as far as a lot of time to basically not only provide for their food and their daily needs, but they also had time to basically develop as far as art and carvings.
It has changed a lot of lives to the better, and it has brought forth some unity in a lot of ways, but there's always that heartache in the end of the day, but we got to close that circle, and this is part of the closure.
In June 2014, the Tse-Whit-Zen village site was nominated and accepted to the Washington State and National Register of Historic Places. This recognition provides additional federal protection for this sacred site. For Northwest Indiana News, I'm Mike Sarge.
Coming up next, we'll visit a Lummi Nation theater production that is asking the question, what about those promises?
The history is not correct. And so through this play, we're trying to correct or educate our youth and our people that, you know, the broken promises still exist just as they were made. When they were made, they were never kept.
The suicide rate of Native Americans is 25% higher than the national rate.
Today is just another day.
The day I think about you.
The day I remember your laugh.
The day I remember your sense of humor.
Why were you so sad?
What made you hurt so much?
Why didn't you call?
Why didn't I see your signs?
Your pain may be gone.
But mine just started.
No one said life was easy.
There is help. There's hope.
Reach out to someone.
Reach out to me.
Reach out to me.
Reach out to me.
A person commits suicide every 40 seconds.
So please get help. It's worth it. Be strong and live life.
Recently, the Lummi Nation hosted the historical play, What About Those Promises? The play, produced by Lummi leader Daryl Hilaire, tells the story of the Point Elliott Treaty of 1855 and the ongoing battle to have those treaty rights recognized. NWIN's Sherry Macy was there on opening night and brings us the story.
The historical stage production, What About Those Promises, takes us back to the signing of the Point Elliott Treaty and the court cases, struggles, and victories that have followed. With a cast and crew of over 40, including tribal and non-tribal members from as far away as Canada and Colorado, the play examines the relationship between the federal government and the Lummi tribe and takes a hard look at the treaty agreements that have never been honored. Through song, story, and historical reenactment, the play both entertains as well as asks the tough question, what about those promises?
The promise you make, we already hold, we already have.
The play is about treaty signing in 1855 when our leaders hopped in their canoes and went down to Mukilteo to sign a treaty with the United States government. And then when my great-grandparents and their cohorts decided to file a claim against the United States government. That was in 1927. So it got real interesting to me. They were consistent in their message. What about those promises, United States government? And I thought this needs to come to life. I think I felt we'd have a better effect of reaching our young ones by bringing these characters to life in the form of some kind of theater production.
When we started this play, there was mad, there was anger, there was frustration. And amongst us as cast, people on the stage, in the community, it was making people mad. They were getting up and leaving.
Those treaties were never honored. They've never been honored. And when they talk about trying to be fair and just in treaty discussions, it's always got to be on their terms. And when we don't say what they want to hear, we're considered uncooperative, backward, we're non-productive, and all those things that are not complementary to who we are.
The history is not correct. And so through this play, we're trying to correct or educate our youth and our people that, you know, the broken promises still exist just as they were made. When they were made, they were never kept.
The reservation has been reduced in size from what it was originally set.
We once lived in these places that are far greater than the reservation. There's an assumption that we just were kind of born and raised here, and our civilization, you know, grew up inside of these boundaries, and these boundaries are actually just rather new. So when you think about that and the agreements made for giving up everything else, and we were never paid, does time make it right? Well, in our opinion, it doesn't.
The play has evolved. When I say evolved, it's taken a life of its own that says, we're not going to just tell the sad story. We're going to tell the rest of our story.
My part in the play itself is to talk about the first part of creation, the creation story. So I tried my best to recall everything that I learned from my great-grandmother and my grandparents.
Oh, this character I play is a fisherman, so I can relate to my character. A lot of us are descendants from the people that were in the treaty and in some of the court cases that leads up to this play. And so that kind of hit home, and it was pretty neat to find out that I have direct descendants leading up to the Bolt decision. And it's opened my eyes to a lot of historical aspects of what went on in treaty times.
The storyline is universal. You can take Lummi out and put Tse-Whit-Zen in there, put Swinomish in there. You can put, the Lakota in there. You can put the Cherokee in there, and you'd have the same storyline.
We're wanting our relatives to hear this story because they own the story too. We'd like them to join with us and them tell their stories to their communities, their version of the treaty signing.
We know some things that were wrong, but we also know that we can sit down with you now and we can try to make these wrongs right. So that's significant to us as a Lummi people in a very humble way, because that's what our ancestors told us to never forget, and here we are, remembering.
I'm just thankful it's public, that we've come to this place, that we're comfortable enough and build enough integrity behind ourselves to be able to tell our own story, that we're not letting other people tell us our story, because a lot of people have, non-Indian people. Now, where it's our turn to tell our own story.
The show has played to sold-out houses as far south as Seattle, with hopes to continue traveling and showing at different reservations and museums throughout the country. To find out more and look for upcoming shows, visit Facebook and search for What About Those Promises. For Northwest Indian News, this is Sherry Macy.
Next, we'll attend the 25th Annual Stillaguamish Festival of the River and Powwow.
I remember coming here for the first time years ago and feeling like there was something to learn. As soon as I walked in, I felt like I was supposed to learn something from being here.
That story and more on this episode of Northwest Indian News.
We have our own way of thinking. We think sustainability is nothing new. We think justice is older than any government. We think we can grow radishes on the moon. We think the war against diabetes is fought on the basketball court. We think the same berries we pick today should be here for another 7 generations. We think education is for the mind and the spirit. We think Indian.
Help tribal college students preserve their way of thinking.
Welcome back to Northwest Indian News. The Stillaguamish tribe has found a unique way to educate the public about salmon recovery while also sharing their culture with the community. For a quarter of a century, the Festival of the River and Powwow has been bringing together thousands of native and non-native visitors from across the Northwest and around the world to learn more about the Stillaguamish tribe and its conservation efforts.
For 25 years, the Stillaguamish Festival of the River and Powwow has been bringing great music and entertainment to the Northwest. This year's lineup included Austin Jenks from television's The Voice, the Wallflowers, and country music superstar Joe Nichols. But the festival in Powwow is about more than just entertainment. It's a chance for the Stillaguamish tribe to connect with the community, to share their culture, and to promote the health of the Stillaguamish watershed.
You know, to keep our water, keep our trees, you know, keep our habitat, you know, keep fighting for the salmon. We look at this river and it's still flowing.
We're hoping to share who we are, the culture of the Stillaguamish tribe, and why it is so important and the efforts that we make in Chinook recovery, salmon habitat, clean water. It's our opportunity to be able to share with people exactly what we do and why we do it.
Yeah, I think a lot of that needs to be shared because there are some that, you know, don't fully understand our culture, but they're going around to all the tribal gatherings and they're picking up on our culture, how important it is and how strong it is for our people.
I remember coming here for the first time years ago and feeling like there was something to learn. As soon as I walked in, I felt like I was supposed to learn something from being here. And I just remember how different it is because there's so much focus on the tribe and all of the nations and everything that they do. It's something very special. You don't get it anywhere else, I think.
You got a little bit of everything, and it's truly multicultural in that aspect. I really enjoy that as far as, you know, I go as a native flautist and somebody who's kind of a mix of different things, though, too, to see all this mix of people, even in the audience, too.
Started many years ago just as a powwow in the backyard of one of our relatives' home there on the reservation. Folks decided to make it bigger and also advertise what the tribe does in natural resources so that way we could bring awareness to the watershed as well as our culture, and then from there it just grew.
We try to make it fun. Anything that we can do to attract people to come in and learn something. If they take one little tidbit of information away that they didn't have before about a fish or about a wildlife species, we've won the day.
Last year we had 13,000 people through the weekend. Having that many people come through the festival from all parts of the world, all over the United States, gives us that great opportunity to, you know, make those connections, share a little bit about who we are. Even though you get the questions from some folks, you know, why are the tribes doing this? Why do you guys have to fish? Why do you have to hunt? Why is it so important? What gives you the right? So we're able to answer all those questions with folks that are asking.
One of the big draws is the Native Powwow, bringing together tribes from all over and giving visitors a chance to participate and learn about Native culture.
Yeah, this powwow, you know, is a competition powwow for all different categories. And they also have drum contests. And those songs can be medicine to a lot of people that are sitting around the arena. It is a real good thing, especially for our elders.
The hoop dancer makes different designs. The designs represent the birds, the animals, the plant life. There's meaning in the hoop dance because a hoop dance reminds us all to really respect everything that has been given to us by our Creator. When we travel, we tell people that, you know, it's good to know where you came from because it helps you decide, you know, which direction you're going to go.
I really enjoy seeing our relatives out there dancing at the powwow, being involved with the community, having those opportunities to meet folks, share who we are. As Billy Frank would always say, you know, we got to keep telling our story. And that's what a lot of this here is, and having that opportunity at a setting like this to answer those questions and hopefully educate people the importance of our tribal culture and our lifestyle and the things that we do preserving salmon.
To find out more about the festival, the entertainment schedule, or to get involved, visit festivaloftheriver.com. For Northwest Indian News, this is Leandra Smith reporting.
Visit NWIN.TV, where you can view every episode of Northwest Indian News on demand, including the stories you've seen today. You can also watch NWIN and other Native programming at TleLipTV.com. Coming up next, we'll take a trip to Taholah, where efforts are being made to hold back the encroaching waters that threaten the lower village.
Not only are we vulnerable to the ocean encroaching, but the footprint of our lower village is vulnerable to liquefaction. So if we had a large earthquake, the village could actually sink into the earth.
To my tribe, I'm more than a student. I'm an example that it's possible to get an education.
Education can end poverty, violence, and health issues on the res.
On the reservation, tribal students find ways to turn their education into an entire tribe's education.
Even when only 5% of Indians on the reservation
Only 5% of Indians
can afford to go to college.
If I do nothing, 25,000 people will continue to live in poverty.
I will help 2 million people educate themselves.
I'll keep 173,000 people from losing their sacred home.
Hey!
Welcome back to Northwest Indian News. For decades, Mother Nature has been literally knocking on the door of Taholah's lower village. NWIN's Wayne Messer has the story of the lower village, its residents, and a rising dilemma.
The lower village in Taholah has been home to residents for thousands of years. But with constant danger of ocean flooding to its residents, the tribal government is looking into ways to relocate to higher ground. However, for some, that's easier said than done, causing the debate to relocate for safety or stay and preserve their heritage.
I've lived here in the lower village for 40 years. You can hear the ocean in the background. That's a comforting sound to me. I've lived on the ocean all my life. If I go away from that, it somewhat bothers me.
About 2 months ago, there was a big tide, and there's 19-foot waves out on the ocean, and there was a wave that was so big that came over the seawall. It put about a foot of water in our backyard, in mine and my neighbor's backyard, and that was kind of when everybody realized how serious it was, or how bad it could be, you know.
Yes, a few years ago we undertook a comprehensive analysis of our coastline. It was very clear. We started to notice driftwood 40 yards into the wooded area, that we no longer had a protected berm that would insulate our village. So about 3 years ago we did a risk management plan and undertook emergency preparedness evaluation, and it was determined that not only are we vulnerable to the ocean encroaching, but the footprint of our lower village is vulnerable to liquefaction. So if we had a large earthquake, the village could actually sink into the earth.
The lower village has been there for thousands of years, and throughout the years, especially the last 60 years, we noticed that there's been a change in the mouth of the river, and we've lost some of our oldest fishing sites. And with what we've witnessed lately, with all the tsunamis in Indonesia and in Japan, we need to move to higher ground. We secured a 3-year grant, and the grant will identify the final costs and the final move for the resources that are still in the tsunami zone.
Over 1,000 residents, so it's a large population. We have our major retail outlet, the Taholah Mercantile. We have our jail facility, our courthouse, our daycare, Head Start. So a number of our critical areas, our critical programs are located right in the heart of the village.
The world's changed and the earth has changed, and there's been too much has been done to her. She can't, you know, too much has been taken out of her and nothing's been put back, and she's showing us that she can't handle it anymore.
came to the conclusion that it's often mistaken these large weather events are in and of themselves worthy of headline news and huge catastrophe, but I think our ancestors would view it, they're symptoms of a much deeper problem, a global crisis where humanity is disconnected from the natural world, and our ancestors taught us to be good stewards, to care for the land, and we've done that here at Quinault, but yet we seem to be paying the price for others who don't share those same values.
People in the village, we love the water, we live by the water, you know, we thrive on the water, and our biggest concern is being moved to some place where away from the river and away from the ocean.
We'll do our best to educate our membership about the risks. We'll do our best to provide our citizens with options for relocation, but ultimately we will respect that individual citizens' absolute right to live where the Creator put them in the lands that were given to our ancestors.
I love my land, but I love living too. I'm not going to stay here and die for, you know, I'm not going to put my children in danger. I'm not going to put their future in danger.
I may be one of them. I may not leave. I built my own little nest and I'm pretty comfortable. Although I would build my daughter's house on the higher ground.
I don't want to relocate, but I respect the warning system. I would certainly leave if the siren goes off. Like I said, here in the ocean, as it is it's comforting to me, and I don't want to move away from that.
Quinault leaders will continue to talk to residents about the future of the Lower Village. For Northwest Indian News, I'm Wayne Messer.
I'm Carissa Peapud-Gobin, and I hope you've enjoyed the stories we brought to you today. Thanks for watching, and I will see you next time on Northwest Indian News.